okay? So you take it off the hinges, you send it away, you sandblast it, you then get it re-powder coated, you then get that baked in an oven, right? And it doesn't happen on site, it gets sent away to do, right? So that doesn't rely on temperature conditions.
Yeah, Councillor West, all I can say is that we've sanctioned this company to look after that play area, all the play facilities, and we have to let them just do it. Now, if we're dissatisfied with what they're doing or producing, then we'll raise those concerns with them. I don't know what other councils feel, but at the moment they've only been doing it for a few months, and well, I think they're doing a reasonable job. I mean, at the end of the day, you can't do a lot of remedial work in the winter because of the weather.
No, but powder coating is one of the things that you can do because you have to do it in a kiln.
Councillor Holloway?
We have this every month. This report is about safety, not that it's pretty. So, for completeness, he does point out things that could do with proper reparation. If we asked him to make it 100% perfect, I'm sure we'd go through ticking everything. We asked this to be put together because of an error in judgment that was made over health and safety matters. And this is to mitigate, to make sure that doesn't happen again. So the bit at the bottom, the management summary, is the bit that we really, anything that appears in there that says fix, we fix. Anything that appears above it is on its way to appearing in the bottom. So I'm quite happy that we just carry on the way we are. The report is serving its purpose, keeping our children safe.
I do agree with that.
I agree with it. So.
Yeah, although you're quite within your rights to raise any issues that you feel
Well,
you might have with the report.
if you refer back to the Rossiter report also highlighted that gate.
Okay, but as I said, we've sanctioned that company to look after the health and safety of the play facilities of the village, and at the moment, I think they're doing a reasonable job. And they're acting upon the advice we give them. They're going to replace some of the play equipment which is unsafe or wearing out, and they will deal with some of these areas that they mentioned in the summer report as soon as they can. If in 6 months' time some of these things are still coming up, then I think you'd have a valid reason to say, what the hell are you doing? But at the moment, I think they're doing good.
Okay.
I think they're doing good. Okay, so we've now received that report. 15, the neighbourhood plan. The monthly update from Councillor Holloway on the neighbourhood plan, if there is one.
Yes, there is. So, since we last met, there's been 2 meetings with the committee and the people working on the plan, which is great, making some superb progress. The terms of reference which we reviewed and said we're okay with have been accepted, so that's good. Know what we're about. I had a couple of requests of the council because the neighbourhood plan group meet fortnightly, well, roughly fortnightly. The frequency is higher than we meet, and particularly with 6 weeks before the next meeting. Sorry, can you hear me okay, Judy?
Judy, can you hear Councillor Holloway?
Sorry, yeah, just, yeah.
I've been asked if we could have a page on the website, if there could be a page on the website, so that we could get maximum exposure. Remember, it's all about asking the village what they want. So the more people that know about that, the better. So how does council feel about that? That's a job of work, I think, either for Leslie or to send out to our developers.
Do you want it to be edited by the neighbourhood plan strategy group?
Ideally, yes. Yes, ideally. We have WordPress skills within the group. That we keep the work off of your intro.
I think you go for that, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I'll have to speak to the person who does the website. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, please. The other thing I've got here is. Okay. So we're running into or about to incur some costs, which the council will be invited to agree. This is a committee, so I'm not going to be spending any money. But they do want to order up some things like a couple of banners. We need to have a survey sent out. We need to get some marketing collateral, basically, so that we can start telling people about it, and then put on an event. The consultant strongly suggested that very good way to engage the residents is to have like a consultation event, so there'll be like a launch party. So I don't know how the council feels about this, but with I remember with the Arlesey Remembers You, we made some funds available. I don't think there's not going to be a bank account for this project. It's a committee of this town council, yeah. But it would be good if there was some funds made available that we can, in a sense, draw down on, or at least order things, knowing that those invoices will get paid and they're presented to council. Does that make sense? Okay. So you, as a council, will remain in control, but as a committee, they've got. You know,
Yeah, can I just ask Councillor Wenham if you've got any experience on how other neighbour projects have been financed like this?
Only in the Henlow one that's being controlled directly by the parish council, so the situation doesn't arise. I think in Caddington one there was a drawdown budget, and I would support what Councillor Holloway is saying, that if we're going to move forward quickly, then the council should consider providing a drawdown budget, similar, I think, to the approach that was used for the Arlesey Remembers.
well, I remember slightly different because outside of the council, so we gave them £2,000. We don't need to do that in this case, but we are. It would be daft if not be so strong to have to wait 6 weeks to sanction £200 on some flyers, because this project, the project plan is extremely good, even aggressive in terms of time
Can I share how Councillor Baines got on applying for the funding?
I believe it's all work in progress, so there's £8,000?
Up to £8,000 can be applied for in a 6-month period.
Yeah. So we've got.
So the application's gone in and you're waiting to hear
No,
it?
we have to compile the application, we have to tell them what we want to spend it on. So I've seen emails going around where people put the budgets together for that. Just to set your expectations, which is only fair, in the first instance leading up to the first survey in the public meeting, we're looking at in the region of £300, £300 for some survey printing, publicity mirror about £250, venue cost about £100, and then some banners make £300. So the whole drawdown facility that the committee's asking for is in the region of £1,200 over what I would think to be in the next two to 3 months.
Without that agreement, then the project will effectively be on hold for that period of time, because the group can't proceed to the first meeting with the community. And so basically, because this money is not available, then the group can't make progress.
So I guess I'm tabling a motion.
I was going to say that probably should have been a bit more wordy in that agenda item, shouldn't it?
The agenda item covers it, doesn't it?
Yeah, we have the update, so we need a. You make a
Shall
proposal.
I make a proposal?
Yeah.
Could I propose that we have a call-down facility of £1,500 for the next 3 months?
I'll second it.
So there's absolutely no way the council will spend money without seeing the invoices and
As long as there's,
going out.
as long as everything's properly,
It will be, yeah. There's sort of
properly
4 councillors, 5 councillors on that committee, I
Yeah.
think. 1, 2, 3, Gersh, 4.
Linda, technically you are.
Yeah, technically. Well, there's a lot of work to be done by a lot of people, so we're really relaxed about who can turn up when. And a lot of work is being done. It's going fabulously, I have to say. I often do it in a year, and it looks like it's going to be about 14 to 16 months.
right, Councillor Wynne?
Yeah, there's only one other thing, Mick. I'm afraid I've been told that we have to notify all other local councils that we intend to do this, in case it has a knock-on effect on what they want to do, at not only town and parish, but also district and county level.
I think there's an action item to start those.
And we have to get our acting clerk to write to all of those councils, including North Herts, Hertfordshire, Stotfold, Letchworth, Hitchin, Ickleford, Stondon, Henlow and Langford, because they all touch on us in some way or another. Just a standard letter saying that we are going to go for a neighbourhood.
I think I did raise that a couple of meetings ago.
I think
And it should be
I can't see it on this.
cooperate.
Yeah. Well, with all the admin work that is generated, because there will sum generated from all this.
Yep.
How are we going to cover that off? Is there anybody within the group that is able to assist with that?
I can ask, we've got lots of talent and lots of people very keen, so I'll take a request back, see if we can have any admin help.
Yeah, because you wouldn't be in a position to,
Not at the moment, no.
you know,
Okay, no, it's all right,
dilute your time even more.
it's fine, this is a big group.
With regards to the invoices, are they all, they've got to be all made out to Arlesey Town Council?
Yeah, this committee has no bank or anything, not interested in this council project.
And ideally you should get a purchase order from the office when you order anything,
Fine, that's great.
for the audit trail.
Can we give me 10 purchase orders numbers so we can use them?
No, I'd rather know where each individual
Let
is.
me liaise with Leslie.
Yeah, okay, well, thanks with you.
Okay, you happy with that, Nick?
That's
Councillor
fantastic,
Arlesey?
thank you. There's one,
And there's no budget line, because you didn't put budget in for it.
no, I think
You
we
realise that, don't you?
always knew it was coming out of it.
I've got my year end closed down in about 10 days' time, so I will raise this with the accountant to make sure it's being done correctly,
Okay,
because it's all coming out of reserves, that's what we.
that's what the council agreed, wasn't it? Yeah. Well, we've got, the big ticket figure was in the region of £20,000 to £25,000, where 20 of that was expected to be for the consultant. I mean, trust us, we know that's a budget, it's not a challenge, we're not going to spend that. We are looking at ways of containing the cost, and if we can get the consultant more effective and efficient than 20k, we certainly will. So there are councillors on hand to make sure that happens. There was one thing just to report that the housing needs survey has been sanctioned by BRCC, so that's going to be happening. What sort of timescales? I can't remember what we said.
They ought to be coming to either the next meeting or the meeting afterwards to discuss the format of the questions. And then once that's agreed, it takes a couple of months to actually run.
Oh yes, we're inviting them to the next meeting. So there is more to look at, and you'll start seeing things, the initial what we call Marmite survey will be coming out to everyone. What do you like about Arlesey, what don't you like about Arlesey?
In fact, you probably haven't seen, I don't know if you've probably on the email, Nick, but Georgina has sent out a letter to, I think, 8 different potential consultants. So we'll be getting pricing back and quotations back, hopefully. In the
Yeah, be assured we are carefully spending this money. We're getting quotes even on the printing, even right down to the banners. We're trying to spend the money locally. We found a supplier in Arlesey that is extremely cost effective and doing it as mates rates, whatever the phrase might be, because it's for Arlesey, which I like, which is really good. So there you go, longer report than usual, but
Thanks for that.
I can report back that, where's my notes gone? In principle, the website's been agreed. We need to line up some resources to help you. I'll talk to you about what sort of people you need, and that the drawdown for 1,500 subject to purchase orders. Brilliant. Thank you.
16 is the local transport plan, rural match funding. So Councillor Clapham will give an update on this application for 15-16 for 20-mile-an-hour signs in the High Street.
Right, well, we did say that might have been a way of helping some of the situation that goes on out there. I did meet with Steve Brewer from Central Beds and Neil O'Leary from Amy Highways, and I persuaded them to stay there. We met at 2:30, but I persuaded them to stay till 4 o'clock so that they could see just what goes on and what happens with the traffic at school, coming out time at that point. They weren't all that convinced that 20-mile-an-hour reactive signs would do anything about slowing the traffic. They said there'd been this monitoring report, which I asked for a copy, and I've got here, which I can leave in the office if anyone wants to read it. Basically, they're saying that before the humps and everything else were put in and the road was narrowed, there was a lot more 30 to 40 miles an hour going on, but since it's showing that nearly everyone's doing 20 to 30 miles an hour. An average speed is about 24 miles an hour. Now they reckon that putting reactive signs might slightly slow those that are doing 24 miles an hour, but not a lot. So they don't think that that's really the answer, which I suppose it might not be. But I sort of was more interested in pointing out the dangers they've caused by making the road so narrow that vehicles have to mount the pavement to avoid smashing into each other, particularly if an HGV and a bus and various very broad vehicles go past, or when you get people who just don't care and still do go far faster than 20 or even 24 miles an hour. As I said, they didn't think that the 20 mile an hour reactive signs would be a great help. And as I said, we watched the children and all the traffic and so on. So I asked them for what safety measures that would ensure, you know, the safety of parents and children and residents having to be on, a lot of them on the pavement at the same time with such a narrow road. So some of the suggestions that they came up with was the possible, they weren't keen on putting in reactive, I mean it was all about they weren't keen on giving us the reactive road signs. One of them suggested the possibility of moving the 30 mile an hour sign that we've got on Stockport Road and using that alternatively on either side at varying points and sharing that, which obviously I didn't say sounded like a very good idea. Or else they put in solar powered or battery signs which would just be on and off and could be moved. It's like they didn't want to spend the money, really.
So they're not going to spend the money?
Well, I said I'd have to bring it back, but one of the discussions was there's various signage that could be used rather than just 20 mile an hour signs. Other suggestions they made was the possibility of putting some bollards along the edge of the pavement so that cars wouldn't be able to mount the pavement. But I did say, well, sometimes you have to mount the pavement to avoid a crash. So that might cause more dangers rather than less. And they seemed, well, that's better than you know, a child's life. But what they didn't quite understand was that if there's a crash, that could also be a, you know, a child's life anyway. So Steve did mention that he knew of places where a mannequin was dressed up as as a traffic surveyor. Standing on the roadside, and the bollards were dressed up like school children standing along the roadside. And he felt that was doing some good in some places.
Okay. Well,
On the whole, I just said, well, I'd have to bring it back to council because there wasn't much conclusion. They are going to do another survey, which may be as useful as this one, I don't know, proving that they were right. They seem to think basically that they've done it now. They've made the road narrow, they've put in 3 raised platforms, and that's what slows the speed.
well, personally, I think what is out there has slowed the traffic enormously.
It has slowed the traffic, but it's caused, as I kept pointing out, it's caused other dangers. And that's the whole
Councillor
point.
Wenham?
Councillor Clappert, did they know that the council applied for this money through the match funding scheme? Or did they think that we were trying to lobby them to spend money out of their own budget?
Well, that was what the meeting was about. The whole meeting was about.
Because this scheme is precisely to allow parish councils to ask traffic schemes that wouldn't otherwise be funded. And as long as it can be shown to be safe within the regulations and the funding is there, there's no reason why it shouldn't go ahead. And I do know that the the funding for this particular allocation hasn't all been used. So
Well,
my input to the council is that if this is a scheme that you want, then I will lobby for it to be taken forward, unless there's a road safety reason not to do it, which doesn't seem to be the case.
well, I'm not altogether convinced that it's maybe the right thing, having 20-mile-an-hour reactive signs. But I would like them to make the road back to how it was before, a suitably sized road, so that there wasn't the dangers of traffic mounting the pavement. But I can't really see.
Have the council ever seen vehicles melt the pavement?
I've been on them. Buses quite often do.
Councillor
Mr. Chair, can I ask this council to buy a copy of the highway code and stick it in these people from Central Bedfordshire's hands and ask them before they come and make ideas to actually read it, because it quite clearly states in the highway code footpath is for feet and carriageway is for vehicles. So how can they turn around and say that let vehicles mount the footpath when quite clearly the highway code quite clearly says you do not mount the footpath? And we're also already getting complaints from residents saying that people are parking on the footpath, obstructing the footpath instead of parking correctly on the highway.
The highway code doesn't say that.
I think you'll find it does.
You can park your car on the path.
Yeah,
Well, we won't argue about that point in the highway code. Well, subject.
They
What do
did-
other
they-
councillors feel about?
just to say
Sorry,
something.
councillor Gunn.
They did say that they were prepared to come into the council and discuss it further after they've done another survey, which could possibly be done in May. And I said, well, you know, make sure you do it at the times when the schools coming in and out and see the real dangers. But if it's another one like this, it just...
So, councillor Hayes? Yeah, thank you, councillor.
I personally can't see any benefit from it. And all I can see is flashing lights annoying residents going through the windows. I don't think it's going to bring anything to the table. It's a waste of money.
How much money will we have to match fund?
It's 50% this particular scheme.
And that would be how much in this particular
I think
case?
it was something like 7.
7.
Is it really going to bring the benefits, as councillor Hayes said? I actually feel that what's been done out there, although it's narrowed the road slightly, it's actually slowed the traffic considerably. And I think it's made it a lot safer.
Well, it does show that now all the traffic is doing between the 20 and 30. Around, he reckons it was 24.
I mean, there's all kinds of signs out there anyway at the moment, isn't there? So I think to have sort of reactive flashing signs as well is
Perhaps not.
Mr. Chair, if you
really
come down-
not the ideal thing.
As you come down the hill anyway, if you're doing 30, you're only going to get flashed, told you to slow down anyway. So, are we going to take that one out and put another
No,
one?
that's not the way to go.
No.
I would suggest we leave it as it is. But I don't know, what do council think, where do you want to go on this? Do we want to invite them along to a council meeting, or?
I think we're losing flavour for it, aren't we?
Well, I probably won't even be on the council by then. I can't really say.
You're so negative,
To be honest. Is there still an appetite for this? In a sense, you don't think it'll work either.
No, we sort of discussed it as a possible method, but I don't think it's the relevant, we're not,
I think they
we've got
thought,
the slowing down, but we haven't got the safe, we need something else to stop them mounting the pavements, that's what we need, rather than the speed thing, but I don't know what, and that's what I was hoping somebody might have some ideas, apart from dressing up mannequins.
To be quite honest, barriers to stop the kids walking out into the road as opposed to using the crossing. Because I've seen parents walk 20 foot away from the crossing and take the kids across the road. If we reduced where they can actually cross, it would, I think, make it safer. You know, and extend the yellow lines to prevent people parking in the narrow bit. I think that would be a better direction to go rather than the signs, because to save 4 miles an hour at that expense doesn't seem really I Sorry, I know you worked hard on this, but
And I agree, after speaking to them,
I mean, if people are genuinely only doing
It won't bring the benefit of the expense outlay, will it?
no, that's...
I'd rather see, you know, like they have outside a lot of other schools, you know, the close linked railings, handrail type stuff.
They just took the handrail down from the roundabout. There was a handrail on the roundabout and they just took it down.
But just to, as you say, prevent people mounting the curb.
You're saying on the straight bit, right outside here in the school.
Yeah. So you actually take children to the proper crossing to protect. And also, you know, who's going to want to drive into one of those? If they reduce the amount of space where people can park in the, you know, the narrowed part of it, I think that would help as well.
And outside the
Women's Institute.
Women's Institute Hall.
That might be an idea, actually.
That definitely needs yellow.
I don't think you need great big black bollards, do you? Because they're going to take up too much space. There are obstructions. People,
I mean,
people
a
do
narrow,
it anyway.
galvanised sort of fencing.
Yeah.
Crash barrier sort of stuff.
Not on-code type stuff, but I don't know what it's called.
No.
As you know,
Probably get back to what they were discussing.
people can't squeeze
The
through
stuff
it.
they had on the roundabout, which is round pipe, they was bolted to the ground, and they had a cross member.
No, because children can go through that. And they can use it as a climbing front. I mean, there's the stuff where you've got very close, it's all made out of box section, very close. The kids can't climb through it. It's not that easy to climb over because of the height of it. I'm trying to think of an example of where there is some. But you see it outside of lots and lots of schools, just to prevent the children wandering across the road as and where they want to. You know, I think that would be money possibly.
Probably to go back to them on that point, Linda, and speak to Andy about
I'll take a photo.
what his
Yeah,
it's golden. I'll
if
take a
you can
photo.
find a name or
Yeah.
something so I can, that is
Okay.
a closed section barrier to prevent
Yeah.
children.
Okay, we move on from that. The allotment field, 17, to receive reports from Council West and Clapham regarding alternative uses for the allotment field at Hillary Rise.
Well, it's me again. But there was an email from David Leverington, which I did send about everyone, saying additional money. Oh, sorry, no, wrong one. We're on.
You're talking about West Drive.
Oh yeah, I was. I spoke to Cliff Andrews at the last Green Wheel meeting and via emails, and he seems to be very happy to provide communal orchard and wildflowers in the field beyond Hillary Rise. They're very keen on biodiversity, and that would be an opportunity. And he seemed to think that he could find funding under the Green Wheel master plan to do that for us. And it's within the Green Wheel area and going towards the new development. So.
Councillor West?
Yeah, I've spoken to a couple of funders who haven't turned around and said yes, we can have funding. What they've turned around and said is that we apply to their bodies for funding, and it then goes up for their boards who then give out funding whether or not, and that it's on a no appeal basis, so we just fill out the forms appropriately and get put a case forward, and if they deem it to be a viable project for the community and it would benefit the people that they represent, then they would go ahead and give some money towards it.
So basically, does council agree that we want a communal orchard and wildflowers rather than a field we've got to mow, and to let the Green Wheel go ahead and put that
Yeah, I
in
mean,
the master
I understand where you're coming from. I mean, it is a big piece of ground, and there is some clearing that still needs to be done before even a project like that could continue. Because the groundsmen are clearing up all the stuff that they can move easily like, you know, discarded